Everyone, I'm Kira Phillips. We're coming on the air because a verdict has been reached in the case of Ryan Routh. Routh, as you know, is accused of attempting to assassinate President Trump at his golf course in Florida. He has been found guilty on all 5 counts. Let's get straight to our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, on the phone. Pierre.
Well, Kira, this case involved Ryan Routh allegedly attempting to try to kill President Trump as he was golfing while a candidate last year. The case played out over several weeks. He represented himself. Sources had been saying, and the prosecutors had maintained this was basically an open and shut case, that he was found to be near the site where Trump was actually golfing. A Secret Service agent saw a rifle barrel peering through the woods. He fled. They were able to recover the gun. They arrested him a short distance away from the site. They were able to connect him through physical evidence and also interviewing people that saw him casing the area. So this case is now resolved. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, has just released a statement thanking the prosecution team in Florida for convicting Ryan Routh, who now faces life in prison, the potential for life in prison after this conviction.
Pierre, thank you. Let's bring in our attorney and ABC News contributor, Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, from the filings that Routh had made all the way to representing himself in court, this has been a bit of a bizarre and wild ride.
Yeah, it's always interesting when someone elects to represent themselves, or what's called pro se. But this was an interesting one to begin with. When we had the initial filings, as you pointed out, before the trial had even started, where the defendant was asking to have almost like a combat by golf course and asking for strippers to be at his beck and call in between the court dates. That's where it started out being very strange. But then also his arguments that he brought up, who he was cross-examining, how he was cross-examining, thanking people, and trying to raise this defense that it's not his character that would have done this, that he's a good person, bringing up 2 friends and 1 firearm expert to try to suggest that the firearm that the jury actually asked about during deliberations in that 2 hours was not capable of committing the crime, and therefore he's not guilty. But after a quick 2 hours, we saw a resolution to this case that I think most of us saw coming.
And what do you think he could face here? Life in prison?
So it's a serious crime. I don't think that Judge Cannon is going to go very lighthearted or light-handed on the sentence here. We also found out in some of the admonitions that the judge had made that if he talked about his character, the government would be able to bring in some of his past convictions. And some of those questions were brought up in cross-examination of his witnesses. So knowing he has a criminal record as well, I would believe that once probation speaks to him, we find a guideline range that he's looking at, it would be life in prison, if not very close to it.
And let's bring in our Washington managing editor, Catherine Falders. Catherine, the jury actually requesting to see the physical rifle, the ammunition, even the magazine that Routh allegedly used.
Yeah, they did request to see that, and that was, of course, granted by Judge Eileen Cannon, who is overseeing this trial here. That was one of the first notes, if you will, from the jury that they returned. And then it appears that just a short time later, they came back and issued this verdict, of course, which found Ryan Routh guilty on all 5 counts. Now, just to break that down a little bit, to convict on this top count of attempted assassination of a presidential candidate, the jurors needed to believe beyond a reasonable doubt that Routh intended to kill Trump and that he took a substantial step to carry out this plan, even if he did not follow through or even if he changed his mind. So what we heard in a bit of an unusual trial, a quick trial, lasted under 3 weeks. Ryan Routh, the defendant here, defended himself. The judge overseeing it, Judge Cannon, gave him very strict orders for how he should behave in court. She said at the beginning of this, if he made any sudden movements, for example, there would be U.S. Marshals standing near him in order to intervene. There was, of course, some discussion about whether he would be able to represent himself during this whole trial, which it appears obviously that he did. So we are waiting for more color from inside the court. Ryan Routh's reaction to being found guilty on all 5 of these counts. But right now, we do know that this is the verdict from the jury. We haven't heard anything yet from the president, from President Trump. I'm told by sources that he was briefed on this trial prior to it beginning, and that he has been receiving updates from his lawyers who have been also following this closely. So we'll wait for a statement from the president as well.
And Pierre, he was representing himself. Looking at how this turned out, could this have been a mistake?
Well, prosecutors and most of the legal observers were perplexed as to why he would do this. But again, the background we knew about him before the trial showed that he had an odd personality. The one thing I think it's important to remember, Kira, that this alleged attempt came just weeks after the attempted assassination attempt on President Trump as he campaigned for the presidency last summer. And I can tell you that law enforcement officials, DOJ, wanted to send a strong message that, this type of political violence would not be accepted. And again, it came just weeks after there was an attempt where shots were fired and a man was actually killed in Butler in that assassination attempt against then presidential candidate Donald J. Trump. So again, the government used all the resources available to bring this conviction. You have state officials as well heavily involved with this case. I think he faces state charges as well. So again, the full weight of the U.S. government was brought to bear on this case because they wanted to send a message that this type of behavior, particularly involving presidential candidates and now president, will not be tolerated.
Pierre, thank you. And again, if you are just tuning in, the man accused of attempting to assassinate President Trump at his golf course in Florida has been found guilty on all 5 counts. Ryan Routh, representing himself in court, found guilty on all 5 counts.